and they obviously look at Jungle Boy as a guy who they're going to continue to quietly invest in. He's no longer forced to be a main event guy this early in his career. There's a lot more talent in this roster, and it's allowed Jungle Boy to kind of move down the rankings a little bit in AEW and hone his craft. And I think tonight's showcase, we're going to see him now jump in against FTR in a great feud with a tag team. This is really a lot of fun seeing these guys blossom. And I know that Luchasaurus has been somebody who's been a guy that anytime SPD gets a chance to talk about, loves to see it. There's a lot of fun. Jurassic Express getting involved with the Lucha Brothers. Sorry about that. But there's a lot of joy in seeing a guy who is a pillar start to get that opportunity to not be forced into something and actually get time to naturally grow. I think we're so impatient in today's day and age, and this is an example where he's starting to really show why they believe in him long term. And I think that when they get that program and they ultimately get that tag team title run, it's going to be a big moment for him launching forward in his career.
Well, I agree, man. I think that you look at this matchup, and obviously, like, the results were insane. I'm sure you were stoked by the results with FTR winning, Dax getting the pin, which is I don't think it was a surprise. I don't think it's ever a surprise when any of these tag teams win because there's a lot of talent here. But I agree with your point about Jungle Boy, mostly because we kind of saw the opposite of that happened with Sammy Guevara earlier this year with the TNT title, where I think that we were all ready for it, but maybe he wasn't. There wasn't really a feud going on, and he only lost his belt after 5 matches. I don't want to see the same thing happen with Jungle Boy. I want to see him naturally get there and it be the right time, and it feels like it's getting there.
Yeah.
Especially, there was that post-match little tiff between Christian and the Lucha Bros. Yes. And it's like very interesting that they're kind of setting that up, like this feud that we didn't really see coming, but probably we should see coming because these are 2 of the best tag teams around.
Yeah.
They have to do something different because I think having 2 babyface teams kind of feud is a little bit tough to do at times. But I think if you do it the right way, it'll be really intense and interesting. And I think they set that up well tonight. In reality, the match itself, this 10-man match, wasn't the point of the beginning of the show. It was to set up that feud.
Yeah. Good point.
They lost because of miscommunications, and I think that that's going to lead into a really interesting feud. Whether FTR lets that happen or not will be the question, because FTR obviously wants those tag titles as well. So we're going to see some really good stuff, I think. And we could have almost a triple feud, if that makes sense, have them involved as well. And maybe we could get
I like that idea.
A 3-man or a 3-team title match would be really fun.
That would be a lot of fun. I like that idea.
So yeah, I think that'd be a lot of fun, man. And obviously you look at the talent here, and I struggle with, 5 versus 5 matches. We talked about it a little bit before the show. This match is when I was like, oh man, this could be really tough or really awesome. And I think it was kind of a tale of both. So I think the end of the match was much more interesting than the beginning. And there's a lot of everybody kind of getting their spots in, the typical overbooked big match, but the end results kind of made up for it, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think that there's these types of, when it gets to this level, this much, I've talked about it all the time. AEW does tag team, they do team wrestling really, really well.
Better than anybody else.
It's one of the things that they're best at. Mm-hmm. But when it gets this big, I think the 8-man is kind of the sweet spot as far. I like trios. I like trios the best, and that's why I'm pushing for a trios title emerging in AEW soon. Mm-hmm. And we'll get into that later in the show. But I think that this much going on, it's hard to keep me focused, and maybe it's because the ADD nature of the world that we live in. It's just I like my matches to have a little bit of a story. I like the moves to be able to, the wrestlers to be able to breathe. and to actually have these moves and moments matter. And I think when it gets this big, it can kind of cause a brawl that kind of loses some of that. And so I understand what you mean. I do love that FTR gets that big win. Kind of shocking when you look at the landscape of these two teams. You certainly would think, honestly, looking at the baby faces had a leg up going into this match, I think. But FTR, you never bet against these guys, veterans who are always willing to do whatever it takes to win. And that also that's a characteristic of Matt Hardy. So he fit right in with that. And he, obviously Private Party falls right in line with Matt Hardy's mantra. So the teams made sense. But as you said, it's really about the post-match stuff, and it's really great. It's kind of cool to see, as you mentioned, babyface versus babyface. I know that Penta is certainly capable of playing the heel.
He plays that middle ground.
But that would be really interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how the AEW does that tango, does the little dance between, who dabbles in the heel work, and how far do we let them dabble in it? Do they go into the deep end, or do we just dip our toes in? So it'll be interesting to see how that goes going forward. Really, and I love your idea about FTR not wanting to just kind of let step into the background and maintaining a real focus in that feud, being the glue. And allow them maybe to be the true heels of that feud and keep that going.
And it makes this match matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they win, win this match, it should be important. You have, 5 people on each team and 3 or 4 of the best tag teams in AEW, 4 of the best tag teams in AEW. That should matter. That win should be important. And I think that if you kind of keep including them in this feud, that's what's going to keep them going and important.